scripture reading this morning will come from 1 Kings chapter 18, verse 21. 1 Kings 18:21. And Elijah came unto all the people and said, How long halt you between two opinions? If the Lord be God, follow him. But if Baal, then follow him. And the people answered him not a word.
Morning, everybody. Like Terry had said a little earlier, there's about 11 of us went to East Main yesterday and heard these three men as they spoke to us on our responsibility to ourselves, to those in the world, and our responsibility to the church. I want to tell you that Brother Tom Holland is to be here with us in the near future. I'm not sure what day, but he's to be here in the near future. If at all possible, the time that he has to be here, be here. If at all possible, be here. They have to help Brother Tom right now get into the pulpit. He's having trouble getting around, and he's under doctor's care, and so if you possibly can be here, be here. I want to tell you, they may have to help him get to the pulpit, and they asked him yesterday when he started up, said, do you need us to get you a chair or anything? He said, nope, I just need something to hang on to for just a minute when I get up there. And I want to tell you, they may have to help him get in the pulpit, but once he gets there, he commands it well. He is still, his mind is still as sharp and bright as it ever was. And Brother Alan Hires, the camaraderie that was there yesterday, also Glenn Colley, the camaraderie and brotherly love that was there yesterday was really uplifting. I really had a good time, and we all did. Before we went to that, something had to be done for us to go. A decision had to be made. That decision with each and every one of us, do I want to go to this or do I want to do something else? That decision had to be made. Some people couldn't make the decision. It was already made for them. There was something that was planned that they had to do, that there was no way that they could do anything about. What Larry read just a few minutes ago in 1 Kings chapter 18 and verse 21, Elijah is looking at the people. And he's telling them at that time that a decision has to be made. You have to make your decision. Nobody can make it but you. He said, how long halt ye between two opinions? A decision has to be made. You've got two opinions. You've got two things before you. You've got to decide what you're going to do. How long are you going to stand, or how long halt you between two opinions? He said, if the Lord be God, then follow him. That's the decision you have to make. But if Baal, then follow him. That's the decision you need to make. Which one are you going to follow? Are you going to follow the God of the Bible, the God of Israel, the God that created this world, the God that has control over all things, or are you going to follow after something that's man-made, something that the powers are let down, doesn't have the power of God? We talked a little earlier about the movie, The Ten Commandments. Do you remember after the Lord passed through the land on that movie, do you remember what Pharaoh did? Brought his oldest son to the altar of Moloch, or one of the Egyptian gods. Brought his oldest son to that altar for a healing. People in the world, in different parts of the world, still do those type things today. They still follow after the false gods, those that are made from things that man can do. But I want to tell you just real quick this morning that a God doesn't have to be a statue. A God doesn't have to be a statue. I'm sure you passed some of them this morning. Instead of coming to church, did you pass any boats this morning? Is that a God? Well, they're not here. Are they making it a God? Sure. They're putting it, anything you put before God is a God. That becomes your God. Anything that you put above Him becomes your God. You have decisions to make in your life. We all do. And those decisions affect things down through the future. Folks, I'm going to be honest with you. We've got a decision to make, and I'm not going to be, this is not going to be hurtful to anybody in any way. We have a decision to make. We have an election coming up. How we decide in that election, and you have to decide your heart. You have to vote the way that you feel you need to vote. I'm not telling you either way, but I'm going to tell you this. This election doesn't affect us just for the next 4 years. This election, just like the past elections and elections to come, are going to affect this group sitting right over here for years to come. Decisions. When we make decisions, we have to make those decisions based on how we feel about things. And folks, I'm going to be honest with you. If we base our decisions on anywhere other than this, then we're going outside the realms of God to do it. If the Lord be God, then follow Him. And if Baal, then follow him. Look at the word decision just a little bit. The very meaning of it means to make up one's mind, to determine, to settle, draw a conclusion. It implies a firmness and, for lack of a better word, a certain stick-to-itiveness. I want to ask you a question, and this still goes on at my house. It never works, but it goes on. If, as a child, you asked your mama and daddy to do something, the worst answer that I ever got was, "We'll see." "We'll see" is not an answer, by the way. That's just something to put it off for a little later time. That's the worst answer that I ever got. I finally figured out when I got a little older that "we'll see" means probably not, and when it draws close to the time, it means definitely not. But when you ask and you got an answer of no, or you got the "we'll see," did you go, "Please, please, 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 please"? About the third one of them, and Daddy had to stop for it. Usually back over the back seat. Do you let your children now say, "Please, please, 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 please"? A certain decision, when you make it as a certain stick-to-itiveness, you have to stick to the decisions. If it's the right decision, then it's easy to stick to. If it's the wrong decision, then you need to change the decision before the time's up, okay? It's just that simple. Making decisions is important. We all make decisions. We all make decisions every day. But it distinguishes the strong from the weak. The decisions you make and how you make those decisions, it designates, it separates the strong from the weak. It determines success or failure. If you make a decision and you're not wholeheartedly into that decision that you've made, it's going to fail. Miserably. If you decide that you're going to do something and you decide that you're going to stick to it and you're going to make it happen no matter what you have to do to make it happen, you're going to succeed at that decision. Some decisions are made and based on, well, I'm just not going to. Make decisions not because we're making it on the best of answers, but because That's the way we want it. We didn't do a research to make the decision. We're just going to stick to it in this way. This is the decision I'm going to make. I'm not going to search for an answer. I'm not going to look for the right answer. I'm just going to stick to it. I'm going to make this decision and I'm going to stay. It's the way a lot of things are done in this day and age. But indecision, lack of a decision costs you opportunities. Okay? Lack of a decision costs you the loss of opportunities. Going to have a door knocking coming up pretty quick. For years, we've talked about it, and I lean toward the same way too. We've knocked the paint off of the doors, every door in the community, and we ain't done no good. So let's quit having door knocking. Well, folks, I'm going to be honest with you. There's 5 or 6 sitting around in here this morning that if it wasn't for door knockings, they wouldn't be sitting in here this morning, and they made a decision based on the knowledge that they got. Was the door knockings worth it? You better believe it. We got this one coming up in October. Is it easy to approach a house that's got 3 or 4 dogs running around in the yard and you don't know whether they're going to bite you or you don't know what kind of answer you're going to get when you come up? But you know what? When you get up there and you knock on that door and somebody says, yeah, I get that paper, I like to talk, things gets a little easier. And then when they say, you know, I hadn't never studied that before, would you study that with me? Things gets a lot easier. And I want you to bear in mind, I don't care if we go to 2,500 or 3,000 homes or whatever we go to, we're not looking for 2,500 or 3,000, you're looking for one. One. What are the odds of having a study with 1 out of 2,500 people? Gets a whole lot better when you look at it that way, don't it? You're looking for 1. Decisions. And helping people with their decisions. Now I want to look at a few decisions this morning that down through the years. First we're going to look at some wrong decisions. We done looked at one of them this morning. We're just going to mention it and go on. In Genesis chapter 3 verses 1 through 6 we have a wrong decision. May have been made for the right reasons. Eve is there. The serpent appears to her and talks to her. And as that serpent speaks to her, he tells her, surely, there's not anything in this garden you can't eat. And she said, oh yeah, there's one tree in the middle. Said, everything else we can eat, but we're going to leave that one tree alone. Or we'll die. Oh, you won't die. You won't die. God just knows that if you eat of that, you'll be like God and you'll know right from wrong. Any of y'all met Adam and Eve lately? Seen them on the news anywhere. They'd be there. What happened to them? They sinned and they died. Just like what God said. Genesis chapter 13. Abram and Lot had been so blessed that they couldn't run their flocks together. It just took too much to feed them. It took too much. And the strife between them because of the flocks were, well, my flock got to have this, mine's got, and it caused trouble between their workmen. So Abram said, we're going to have to split up. You're going to have to go one way and I'm going to have to go another in order for us to survive. Had they been blessed by God? Oh, you better believe it. Beyond measure. Abram said, Lot, I'm going to let you pick. You decide where you're going to go. I'll go the other way. Everything's going to be good. Every which way you decide, I'll go the other way. Lot looked toward the plain of Jordan, and he could see how good it looked. And, oh, this is the best thing that ever was. You ever made a decision based on the outward looks of something? You ever been fooled? Lot looked toward Sodom. And it looked good. It looked great. So that's what he chose. Abram went the other way. Lot got caught up into some of the, well, I can't say the worst because I'm going to be honest with you. The same thing that was going on in Sodom is going on today in the world right around us. You know the difference between then and now? They couldn't even find 10 righteous souls in Sodom. I really believe that's the difference. But he made a bad decision. And that decision, his wife wound up being a pillar of salt. Look at what happened within his family when he made that wrong decision. I'm sure that his daughters thought the whole earth was gone, and they were the only ones left alive when they committed the sins they committed and bore children to their father. Decisions made on wrong information. In 1 Kings chapter 16, we have a young king that steps up. Now, decisions that had been made in the life of Ahab were made that made Ahab what he is. You are making your children whatever they're going to be as adults, okay? The decisions you make for them at a younger age, you need to understand that. We all need to understand that. There's not a doubt in my mind that instead of making Ahab go the right direction, a lot of the time his parents just gave in to him. What makes me say that? Look at what happened when Naboth said, I'm not going to sell you my vineyard. What did Ahab do? He didn't grin at him and say, well, I'll give you, and try to work with him on it. He didn't do that. Nope, he went home. He packed up his ball and bat, he went to the house, and he went to bed and turned toward the wall. He throwed a fit. And as I've told you before, my daddy had a cure for fits. If you decided you'd have another one after you had the first one, you would do it where he wasn't. And you'd hope that they didn't nobody tell him that you had another one. Because he'd bring you out of that real quick. They didn't do Ahab that way. They let him have his way. Now here he comes and he's mad and he goes in and he jumps in the bed and he turns toward the wall and he says, I'm mad. So his wife had the man killed and took his vineyard and give it to him. Said, there you go, honey. Now, Ahab had decisions made for him that made him a whole lot the way he was, but I think one of the worst decisions that he ever made was choosing Jezebel as his wife. Young people, as you are looking to go into the next part of your life, and I know every one of you are thinking about it, you got it on your mind because you wouldn't be people if you didn't. As you're looking to go into the next part of your, I want you to look for someone to go into your life, that fits into your life, that will help you get to heaven. That's the main thing that you're looking for. The main thing that you're looking for is someone to spend time with that you can get along with that will help you in your bid for heaven. That decision is going to affect you for the rest of your life. Look at what it did for Ahab. Here's another one for you. Samson. When he chose Delilah, oh, he went to her and he just, that was the woman for him. Even in Judges 16, chapter 16, verses 4 through 21, even when she asked, said, Samson, what'll do away with your strength? And he said, 7 fresh bowstrings tied with them. Well, she hollered, the Philistines are on you, and up he comes, and they just snap off like nothing. Samson, you don't like me at all. What is it that will keep it? Well, if you tie me with new ropes, that'll do it. Samson, the Philistines are on you. Boy, he breaks them just. Samson, Don't you love me, Delilah said. Samson. You know, Samson, the Bible says he was strong. It doesn't say nothing about a lot of intelligence. I believe I'd have understood by now that there was some ulterior motive behind this woman. Samson, you got to tell me, or you don't love me. Well, if you weave the 7 locks of my hair into the web of the loom, base part of it. Samson, Philistines are upon you. Well, he stood up that to his head. It didn't even slow him down. Then he told her the truth. Then she shaved his head. Then the Philistines put out his eyes. The way they did that, by the way, just so you know, was they would heat pieces of metal, possibly a knife or something along that line, and they would hold their eyes open, and that's what they would put their eyes out with. And they made him to turn a grinding rock in the mill house. You know, they couldn't do nothing with Samson up until he made that decision. Decision making is important. 1 Kings chapter 12, Solomon passes away. His son Rehoboam is to take the throne. Rehoboam has decisions that he has to make. Now, in order for him to make decisions, just like his father before him, he has men to come up that are going to give him ideas and give him the facts that he needs to make a decision. So he goes to the men that had been the advisors to his father Solomon. Reckon they had some knowledge on what was going on. Reckon they knew the lands around them. Reckon they knew how to take care of things, what business had to be done and how it had to be done. Well, sure they did. So he asked them, and they said, well, your father was a little tight on the people. If you'll loosen it up a little bit, you'll have these people wrapped around your finger, and they'll love you forever. So then he went, and he asked the young men that he had grown up with, said, what do y'all think I ought to do? They said, we think you ought to, instead of loosening that, tighten her down a little more. Let them know who's got the power. Now, this is young men. They don't know nothing. Tighten her down there and let's see who's got the power. Let them know who's got the power. So he looks around and he says, my little finger will be thicker than my father's waist. He said, where my father used whips on you, I'll use scourges on you. And the people hated him. Difference in a whip and a scourge. Whip is 1, scourge is 7 or 9. 1 whack, 7 or 9. Whip, 1. Luke chapter 15, verses 11 through 32. When that lost son left home, that was the worst decision he ever made, even though he was making it because he thought that that's what he needed. He thought that by leaving home would be exactly what he wanted and how he wanted and where he needed to be, and he just decided that he would go. And as he left, that was the worst decision that young man could have made in his life. It said that verse 12 of chapter 15, the younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the portion of goods that falls to me. So he divided to them his livelihood, and not many days after, the younger son gathered all together, journeyed to a far country, and there wasted his possessions with prodigal living. This young man went out, and as long as he had money, listen to this, young people, as long as he had money, he had friends. When the money ran out, they wouldn't even give him nothing to eat. Wasn't real friends, was it? A friend you can buy is not a friend that you need. But this young man made the decision to go away. Another young man came up in Matthew chapter 19, came up to Jesus and said, "What must I do to be saved?" Jesus told him to do all according to the law of Moses. He told him, he said, "Well, I've done that since my very youth." Then Jesus told him to give away all that he had. This man was a rich man. He was a young man. He was a rich young ruler. Give away what you have. Come follow the Lord. And he went away sorrowful. What he had, listen to me now, what he had no bearing whatsoever. His possessions had no bearing whatsoever on his belief in whether God was God or not, in what he needed. It had nothing to do with it. It was the feeling he had about what he had. It was what was here. He loved what he had more than he loved God. Believe it or not, you got to put God first. You got to put God above your children. You got to put God above your wife. You got to put God above your husband. You got to put God above mama and daddy. God has to come first. That is a decision that each and every one of us must make and have to make and do make every minute of every day of our lives. God is number one. No matter what. Decisions that we make, if we don't keep Him first, it's the wrong decision. Now let's look at a few decisions that were right decisions before we go on through this lesson. Moses, according to Hebrews chapter 11 and verse 23 through 27, when he left Egypt, he made by faith. Moses, when he was born, was hidden 3 months by his parents because they saw his beautiful child and they were not afraid of the king's command. By faith, Moses, when he became of age, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of God than to enjoy the passing pleasures of sin, esteeming the reproach of Christ greater riches than the treasures in Egypt, for he looked to the reward. Moses made a good decision when he left Egypt, when he chose to follow after God's people, when he chose to be a leader of God's people. Joshua chapter 24 and verse 15, we have a decision that is made by this young man, and as he is there, verse 14 of chapter 24 says, "Now therefore fear the Lord, serve Him in sincerity and in truth, put away the gods which your fathers served on the other side of the river in Egypt, serve the Lord." Then verse 15 says, "If it seems evil to you to serve the Lord, choose for yourselves this day whom you will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the river, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you dwell. But, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." Make a choice. You will make it today. Before or when you leave here this morning, you will have made a decision that could affect your eternity. Because as we talked about a little later, we don't know when the Lord's coming back. We may not be back here tonight. We may not get home today before He comes back. We don't know. So the decision that you make this morning regarding your soul could be a decision that you carry into eternity. Solomon in 1 Kings chapter 3 verse 9 chose wisdom, and as long as he walked in the way of God, he was blessed, according to verse 14. Daniel, when he chose to remain pure from defilement, he did better than those that were eating of the main sustenance of those around him. But he said, "No, all I want is this pulse, just this vegetable soup, just a little bit right here. That's all I want. And I'll do better." And he did. And he followed after God. Look at the life of Daniel, the decisions that he made. And he followed after God, and he went from a slave to one of the most powerful men in the world. Because he followed God. That prodigal son we talked about a while ago that made such a bad decision when he left, he also made a good decision. He come home. He had the riches, he had everything, but he decided he'd leave it. Chapter 15, verse 18, he came home. He came back and asked forgiveness and wanted to come home. Instead of being treated as a slave, he was treated as a prince. In Acts chapter 9, the man Saul of Tarsus, as he was bringing torment to the church, when he was faced with a decision there on the road to Damascus, and he chose God, and he was told what he needed to do, and he did it when he came he did everything he was commanded. Go into the city and it'll be told you what to do. Did he go into the city? You better believe it. When they came and visited him, did he do what he was told to do? You better believe it. He made a decision to follow God. And folks, a big lot of the New Testament that we have today is attributed to this man that was killing Christians when he started. But he made a decision to follow after God. Decisions have to be made. Many important decisions have to be made. They don't need to be made suddenly, and they don't need to be made outside this book. Sometimes the decision, when somebody asks you a question and you are to give them an answer before you decide on the answer, you may say, I can't give it to you right now. Let me look a little bit and let me study a little bit, and then I'll give you an answer. There's nothing wrong with that. The most important decision of all that can be made is the decision between heaven and hell. God's left it to us to decide. What did Joshua say there just a minute ago? If it seems evil to you to choose God, choose something else. He said, but as for me and my house, we'll serve the Lord. Someday we're going to make a final decision. Could be today. How you leave today could be the way you go into eternity. Are you a Christian with sin in your life? Are you someone who has never been obedient to the gospel? And Elijah came unto all the people and said, how long halt ye between two opinions? If the Lord be God, follow him, but if Baal, then follow him. And the people answered him not a word. We have to make up our minds to let Jesus in. And no, that doesn't come from our request. That comes from Revelation chapter 3 and verse 20. Behold, Jesus said, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come into him, and with him, be with him, and he with me. Now's the time to decide. 2 Corinthians chapter 6. This is a quote the Apostle Paul made out of Isaiah chapter 49 verse 8. It said, for he says, Paul quoting, in an acceptable time I have heard you, and in the day of salvation I have helped you. Then Paul again comes in after he quotes that and says, behold, now is the accepted time. Behold, now is the day of salvation. The choice is yours this morning. The decision to be made is yours this morning. If you are an erring Christian and you need the prayers of the church, come. If you are an erring person in the world that has never been obedient to the gospel, that decision is yours this morning. Won't you make it? Won't you come while we stand?